Hey guys, Tomboy601, and I have done it. I have played Skull and Bones. I know it's crazy after years and years and years of waiting around. Well, there is a closed beta. There's actually been several alphas that I may have been in, but there's finally a closed beta that you can talk about. So we're going to go ahead and talk through the beta, give my impressions on it, because I think there is a good game hidden in here, but it's important to know the caveats because there are several. So the beta, what is it? Well, it is a 6-hour time-limited version of the game. It takes place on a small portion of the overall map where you are also level limited, so you can't get all the way to the best ships because there is a progression system. And if you're interested in the overall gameplay, I did stream this game for about 3.5 hours on the channel, so I'll go ahead and leave that linked in the video so you guys can watch the like 3.5 hours straight of gameplay. But like I said, this is going to be sort of my impressions over, I think, about 5 hours. I only have about 1 hour left as of currently talking left in the game. So still a little bit of time, but I feel like I've gotten the full beta experience at this point. Now, Skull and Bones is kind of famous for it being in developmental hell. It has not done great. Famously, I believe it was tax funded by the Singaporean government. And, you know, the initial pitch of it was take the bits of Pirates of the Caribbean Black Flag and the pirate stuff and put it in a new game. It would be a quick little take this, put it here. And, well, that is not what this is anymore. And I think this is very important because I think if you know what you're getting coming into it, I think you're much more likely to enjoy the game. If you think this is Pirates of the Caribbean Black Flag, but without the Assassin's Creed nonsense, the Assassin's Creed storyline going into it, where you're just going to get to go be a pirate, and all of those gameplay systems have just been ported over, that is not what this game is. And sadly, I think that may have been both an easier and a better way to do it. But what we got is definitely an interesting thing, and there are some hallmarks of just how long this game has been stuck in developmental hell. So we'll cover all of that. Now, the gameplay, the best way I can think of to put this is Skull and Bones feels like if Sea of Thieves was more friendly to the single player audience. It feels like you can accomplish a lot of what Sea of Thieves kind of offers, but in a single player scenario. And I do like that. I think there's a great kind of space in the market for that game to exist. And to help break this down, let's cover gameplay. So gameplay is broken into two halves or two parts. The first one is these walkable hub areas. They serve as a place for you to do crafting, to get missions, to store your goods, to do some trade, stuff like that, because the game is a two halves of being on land and being on the open ocean. The only thing is that when you're in these on land bits is there's no combat. There's no, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of player agency here. It's very much, okay, you're coming into this port and you're walking around a very beautiful menu, but you know, you're just going to go talk to this one person. Maybe there's some dialogue choices that don't matter while you talk to these people. They'll say words and nouns that don't make much sense, but you know, they're just trying to say piratey words and you're going to nod ahead, and then they're going to give you a mission that's essentially go here, sink these people, steal these things, kill these animals, you know, stuff like that. They're going to give you quests, and that is the crux of what Skull and Bones is. It does feel fetch questy at a time, but I think that's only the early game because there is a depth to the combat that doesn't really avail itself until a little bit later. Now let's go ahead and talk about what was great about Sea of Thieves, and that is the actual boat play. I will say this. Skull and Bones grew on me like a barnacle. I was not initially too impressed with what Skull and Bones had to offer, But as I got on board the ship, it was clear that the developers have sort of given over everything you need to enjoy the boats. And that is the important bit, because I think the sailing overall is fun, and that's the important bit, right? If the core gameplay loop is solid, there's a lot of other things that can be done a little bit later to bring things up to snuff. Now, mind you, this game has been in development for how many years now, and we would kind of hope that these core gameplay loops are ironed out and you didn't need more fleshing out. But what is here is solid. When you're on board your ship, you have this beautiful open ocean to sail around it. There are both player controlled boats out and about. You can party up with them if you choose. They can request help, and you can go assist them if you want. There's open world sort of events going on, like help intercept this large convoy of vessels. Like, there's things going on in this world, which I was particularly impressed by. I was like, oh, okay, they have thought out the moment-to-moment gameplay here. So you're out on the ocean, you see a boat in the distance. What do you do next? You pull up your spyglass, and the spyglass is going to scan the vessel and it's going to tell you what is known to be on board, and you can then choose to engage it. And this is where Sea of Thieves gets very interesting, because it's not just the cannons. There are so many different types of cannons and guns and ballistas, and there is a huge menagerie of different sorts of weapons, and your boat is able to be upgraded in so many different ways, and there's a ton of different kinds of hulls on those boats that all give you buffs and nerfs in certain ways. And it's very clear that the idea here, and I think this is what shows just the age of this game, is the concept for this game was done in the hero shooter era, because each boat is a different sort of class that gets, like I said, buffs and nerfs into certain sorts of builds that you would like to focus with in that boat. And then on top of that, you have furniture, which then adds other sorts of buffs and nerfs. Then which is weird that they don't like explain this up front, but there are 5 different kinds of damage that you can do in the game, and that can affect your effectiveness and your resistance to that sort of damage. And each vessel has a certain amount of resistance to that sort of damage. Those 5 are explosive, piercing, fire, flood, and tearing. Because of course there are. So you're ideally going to build your ship to focus on one of those. The default ship that I started with is a rammer, so it's specialized in flooding damage and getting up close and being a little bit more tanky than the rest of the vessels, which is really cool. So that meant instead of using regular cannons on all the sides, what I was doing was my front cannons were long guns so that I could precision fire weak points on the vessels. They're highlighted in red. They're very like, hey, hit these things. Then on one of my sides, I actually had basically shotgun cannons, which were incredible. And, what I could do was basically look forward at a boat, fire my sniper rifles, my long guns, then full speed ahead, ram them, do a significant amount of damage via ramming, and then swing it to the side and fire the shotguns to finish them off. And that was a great gameplay loop. Now, when you do all this, you can also choose to board the enemy vessel. This is where I sort of got let down with Skull and Bones, because boarding a vessel only does plays a cutscene. You throw ropes, and if one of your ropes successfully hooks on to the enemy ship, then you successfully board them, and you have a chance to acquire more loot from this overall interaction. There is no onboard play, and I think that is one of the most disappointing parts. And this goes back to the whole, this kind of should have been Black Flag just without the pirate things, because I think the potential there could have been really, really great. But what we have here is a fun combat loop. I see the ship, I have my build, I exploit that build against this ship, There are all sorts of kinds of ships. When you take down these ships, you get a GTA-style wanted level with that faction. You repeat this, you take down the ship, you steal its loot, you repeat this over and over again until you get all of the things that you're looking for. And then you do that until one of two things happens. One, if you do get sunk in the game, you have two options. One, you can spawn back at like home port with the ability to fully heal your ship, but you lose all of your cargo. Or you can pay a small amount of gold and it will respawn you, but you'll lose a quarter of your overall health to be able to be repaired. So you basically get 4 lives out on the open ocean if you get taken out then. Also, each time you die, you basically drop all of your goods. So you can go try to recover it. I did get caught in one combat loop where I wasn't able to I basically would respawn and then instantly be killed by the forces that had killed me previously. That was not that fun, but it was then, you know, a fun mission to, okay, well, we have this stuff. Let's go finish off this one mission here, and then we're going to be near our old shipwreck, so we'll pick up the shipwreck, and then we're going to go sail off somewhere else. There was a good loop there. It's a good gameplay treadmill that they have designed. But with that said, I think there are some things that Skull of Bones could have done a bit differently, and this is where my criticism is going to take place, because I feel like I've been pretty positive on the game overall. It just doesn't make sense. Like, they're from a storytelling perspective, it's a bit weird. You open the game and you're sailing on this vessel, and you know, it gets taken down by the British Navy, and you're marooned in the shipwreck, and these people come and rescue you, and you're like, wait a minute. And mind you, and I think what happens is technically you're the captain of that first boat, but because they have you do the character creator after the shipwreck happens, you don't have a connection with anyone you see on that first vessel. So you don't really know you're the captain. And then you have these two people who like come around and are like, hey, you're the captain. You're like, oh, I'm the captain. Kind of feel like I'm a bad captain if what just happened occurred. I feel like there could have been a better way of doing it. I feel like the player agency maybe should have been that you get marooned and then you go through the whole crafting system, because there is a crafting system, whether that is you steal stuff to help build things, or you can go and harvest those materials and maybe have some sort of morality system based around that. But the tutorial, instantly you have these two people who are your, like, hey, we're best friends and you're my captain sort of people, and it feels a bit weird. And then you get introduced to a dude, and there's dialogue options. You can tell the dialogue doesn't really matter, and then just the writing for the stories isn't that great. And what I would have loved to have seen is a bit of a system where, because you're just thrust into the pirate life, and I would have loved to see a sort of letters of marque thing where you slowly descend into piracy. You have to earn the ability to become a privateer and then a pirate for all the different factions, because right now it feels very much of, there is a faction of pirates, and you are part of this faction of pirates, and then there are all these other factions, some of which are nationally backed and some of which are just locals, and the only thing you do is you sink those other factions, and then they forgive you in like 5 minutes. And that's the whole loop. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of a persistent thing here, but of course I think that would then take away from it being an always online sort of game. So there's the pros and cons. But either way, Skull and Bones, I'm pretty well impressed. The views when piloting a ship in first person are pretty great. The water looked good. The sun looked good. Foliage maybe not so much, but it looks good, and the gameplay loop is solid, and that's what a game needs to be successful. So I, for one, am definitely now looking forward to Skull and Bones, but we'll just have to wait and see for its full release. Anyways, guys, if you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. See ya.